Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is John and thank you for stopping by today. And on the hobby table today we have the talented Tamiya TT-02 chassis, and as you can see with my chassis, this particular one has got the rally block tyres. So yes, we are going to do a rally car. Now I want to make this exceptionally good and very easy to put together beginner's chassis better than stock. Now this is my stock chassis, so as you can see we've got the friction shocks here, we've got the standard steering, we've got the standard prop shaft, again the same shocks at the rear, same friction shocks, and this is the standard motor that came with this one, which was the torque tuned motor. Some do come with the standard 540 silver can motor. My idea now is to buy some hop-ups for this particular chassis, and which ones we're going to use I'll show you in a moment. There are also some improvements that you can make with little or no money. And I hear you saying, what? Little or no money, John? Come on. Yep, little or no money. So there are some changes you can make to the chassis, for example. So if I can just turn this chassis around, and you can kind of see, hopefully here, you can see that this sticks down. Look, can you see that? There and there. I mean, for a rally car, that's sticking down. Nope, that's not going to work either. And also, you can change the way the steering behaves, because at the moment there is some areas here that knock when the steering is full lock. Also, there's some areas on here, down here, behind there, that also stop the steering from traveling too far. So we're going to make some changes to those, and also we're going to make some changes to how far the rear can squat down, because there's a limiter again in one of these arms here. There's a limiter down the bottom which stops, so we're going to try and locate that and see if we can shave a little bit off there to give it more travel. And I would like to make some improvements also to the way the car handles, to the way the car goes, and just generally make it perform like a rally car performs. So stick with me and I'll show you what I intend to do. So one of the hop-ups we're going to do, this is a cost item of course, is the mini shocks. So I've chosen this particular product, the 53619. This is the mini shock absorbers to go on our chassis. The reason why I chose this is because these are ever so slightly longer than the super mini shocks, and this should help with the dampening of the bumps and rough terrain that this car is likely to see. So that should hopefully give us better handling and better absorption and better contact with the road. Talking of power, we're going to change the motor. This is a Surpass Hobby F540 4370 kV motor, and the electronic speed controller. Had this originally from Banggood. Going to see how well this goes inside this particular chassis. It was a little bit coggy in one of my larger models, but I think in a slightly lighter model like this one is, I think this might work. So we're going to try that too. So that's going to give us a lot more power than our stocked brush motor. You could of course upgrade to a more powerful brush motor if you wish, but as I've got this around, I've already paid for it, I'm going to use the brushless system to see if we can make our rally car perform like a nice rally car. And of course, no point in adding more power with a brushless motor without the control of putting that power effectively and efficiently through our drivetrain. So first of all, we've got a hardened pinion because the aluminium pinion is likely to wear out. So this is a 54768 hardened hard-coated aluminium pinion gear, 17 tooth, so it's the same tooth, so it's there. We've also got the aluminium prop shaft. So the plastic one is in the center there. We're going to change that for an aluminium one. This is lighter, but also less twisting when the power is applied to the model. And we're also going to make sure that that power is outputted from the rear and front of the axles using these propeller joints as well, which is 54502. So we've got the aluminium propeller joints. We're also going to make sure that the motor is nicely held secure using this aluminium motor mount, which is 54558. This also helps with keeping the heat transfer from the motor. So as we've got a slightly hotter motor, shall we say, should we have any heat build up, this will help too. So it'll help with not only keeping it nice and secure, but it'll also help with heat dissipation. And of course, no point having all that lovely dampening and all that lovely power and all that efficient transmission of that power without having control over the steering. This is from RC Adong. I got this on AliExpress. It's the aluminium steering system. It comes also with the top arms, the steering arms that go out to your hubs, your front hubs. Also comes with the bridge one, which is all adjustable, so you should be able to adjust this quite nicely. I went for this particular unit because the Tamiya unit is terribly expensive in comparison to this. I mean, this really does look very good quality and it's packaged well. The Tamiya unit was, whoa, I would say well and truly 55 pounds roughly, give or take. So this was a fraction of the price and looks just as equally made as the Tamiya one. So let us start our upgrades, and let's start here in the middle of the car first of all. And first one that most people always go for is upgrading the motor, and this procedure you can use if you're upgrading the motor mount, pinion gear or the spur gear, and if you're upgrading the prop shaft and our propeller shaft joints that come out of the axles front and rear of the diffs. So this is the procedure, and let me show you how. So let's remove this top cover first of all, because we don't need this plastic cover. We're going to take that off. Hopefully you can see that. Then we can take this cover off too. Then we've got to take the motor out. To do that, we need to flip the car over and take this and this. Now this just slots out. Now that we've got the old motor mount and pinion out of our chassis, we can now look to install our new motor, and in my case this is the brushless system. There's a brushless motor. We've got the aluminium motor mount with the mounting screws, and because I'm making a little bit of a faster motor, to make sure that the pinion gear is a upgraded pinion gear, a hard coated. This one is, there is steel versions, but this is a hard coated, and it's the right module for the TT-02 and a 17 turn. So this is going onto the motor, and of course when we put the motor in here on the motor mount, we need to make sure that the pinion is correctly aligned. And you may recall from the manual, I believe it said that the pinion had to be 10 millimeters from the motor housing, but of course that was on a stock motor. So to line this one up, we're going to need to put the motor into the motor mount the motor system in the car, and then we'll put the pinion on and line up the pinion by eye so that it meshes with the gear correctly in the right position. That's where we're going to do that. So let me show you. Just like on the plastic version, this is got the numbers for you for the number of pinion teeth that you need. We got a 17 tooth, so we're going to be using a 17 tooth, of course, and comes with the little motor plate as well, so we're going to pop that over on our thing here, on our engine, as some people say, but on our motor. We're then going to line that up like that, and then we're going to screw that into the through the holes. So we just got to get this lined up, and it's a case of lining everything up so it's all lined up, and then pop that through, and then line up your holes with the screws, and then basically do up the screw. And then once you've got that in place, you know that works. I'm just going to do a dry fit. That will then fit in here. Make sure it slots in, which it does nicely. So we need to put the pinion in there, and we need to put a little bit of grease around here to seal everything up. And I might just put a little bit of thread lock on these screws. So we have our motor mounted. We take our pinion gear, pop a little grub screw in there, pop that through, give that a little tighten up so we're somewhere near on the flat. Okay, now then let's offer this back into the car, slot that where it needs to slot through. As you can see there, it's now slotted through. Just move that so there we are. And I'm going to loosen that pinion off a bit so that I can now move the pinion in a bit more, and that's about middle. It's about middle of there. That's just good. And then once it's there, that's now adjusted and we know it's right. Just tighten the grub screw up. Make sure it's nice and tight. I have put a little bit of thread lock on that grub screw. So now you can see that is lined up. Actually, I think I've gone a little bit too close to the edge on there. So I'm just going to slack that off a little bit, and then there we are. Do it again. That's better. Okay, so we're now lined up. Now what we need to do, of course, is secure this from underneath, and we need to use some of the machine screws, and I'm going to use some of the hex ones that I have and screw from underneath. So back in a second. So I'm going to use a couple of stainless steel button head 3x10s that I have. I actually have a little stock of these. Always nice to have a few little extra ones. And again here we're going to go from underneath, and because we're going into the alloy, we're going to put a little bit of the thread locking on. Don't have to go too mad with this, just enough just so it doesn't rattle. So just a little bit on that side and a little bit on that side. That's all I tend to use, and that's normally enough to lock the threads. So I'll do one at a time. Pop that into my holder there. So here we go. So turn the car upside down and collect the screws that we need to collect. And there we are. Simple as that. This one. Same again. Underneath the car. That should now lock it in nice and tight. Not going nowhere. There we are. So that's the motor installed, and If it was just the motor that we were doing and we weren't doing anything else, we would technically now put this cover back over the top, and we would screw with 3 of the screws in this position, connect our electronic speed controller, and away we go. But because we're going a little bit further with our upgrades, rather than tightening this down again and then having to retake it back off again, I'm going to leave it off and do the next upgrade, which is going to be the propeller joints here at the back and again at the front of the car, and change the central prop shaft as well to an aluminium one. So I'm going to be using these 2 components here.